Hello, I'm Pastor Steve, and I am honored that you are watching another message from R120 Ministries, which is starting right now. Today I am delivering, the message entitled, Are You a Hero for Christ? I was going to talk about how God answers prayers. I guess that message will have to wait for next week, because I guess God had other plans as He kept nudging me towards this message. So instead, we're not going to talk about prayer. We're going to talk about being a hero for Christ. And it seemed appropriate, and I can understand why God was kind of nudging me this way, given that this is Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. Memorial Day, the federal holiday for our country, for the United States, which was created to honor and mourn those men and women who lost their lives in the service of this country through the United States Armed Forces. It is a time to remember those heroes who gave everything to protect the freedoms of this country, and as well to remember the families of those heroes. And we thank those families and honor you as well for the sacrifice that you have made because of your loved one's sacrifice. These are real life heroes that we can all look to for inspiration. I mean, for many people, they have heroes that inspire them, that they admire, they look to emulate. For Christians, we also have another hero to inspire us every day. His name is Jesus Christ. As our hero, Jesus Christ, we should look to Him, be inspired by Him, look to Him as our personal hero. I think the problem that comes up, especially with the world and society, is what does it take to be a hero for Christ? To answer this question, hopefully find out together, I think we first have to consider, are you or are we heroes for Christ? And if we don't think we are, perhaps maybe we could be better heroes for Christ. But what does it take? What does it take to be a hero for Christ? I think that's the first problem. The first problem is what is a hero? What defines a true hero? Who is a hero? I mean, we define hero in dictionaries as, but what defines a hero? I mean, do we define the word, or is the word defined by the people who we consider to be heroes? I mean, that kind of makes it vastly different to different people, because there are many ways of depicting and choosing heroes, and that span of what we consider heroes in the world is enormous. I mean, people choose famous heroes such as movie stars and musicians and professional athletes. And some people choose political heroes or historical heroes. And then, of course, there are personal heroes from family, friends, and acquaintances. So, I mean, maybe we should start and just clear the air on the question of who is a hero? What makes a hero a hero? At least for this message, so that we can all agree on who is a hero. Well, I consider that one of the traits most people would agree upon that a hero must have is courage. Courage that instills or inspires courage in others. I'm not talking about the courage of Hollywood or myths, which is usually courage without fear. I'm talking about real life courage. Courage to act, to take action in spite of fear. That is true courage, and it's truly a trait of a hero. However, there's a second trait that I would like to explore and expand on today. It is the trait of character. A hero must have strength of character. This strength of character is the determination to do what is right, even when it is hard to do what is right. In fact, a hero will do what is right even when faced with personal harm, whether that harm is physical, emotional, or both. And here's a little secret, kind of a little secret on what truly makes a hero, or maybe perhaps helps a hero be a hero. It's what helps a hero maintain their strength of character so they will do right even when faced with the challenge not to do so. So do you want to know what the secret is? I imagine you do. Here it is. It has to do with what they believe is right. Now, before you throw something at the screen or say, no, duh, just give me a moment to explain. A hero has decided what they know to be right, what they believe in, and what they believe to be right long before they need to be a hero. In the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a struggle, that is not the time to try and determine what you believe to be right. That is the time to act on what you believe, what you know is right. People who wait until the crisis to determine what is right, if they do this, usually they will compromise and act on what is easiest instead of what is right. They will not be known for their heroism. I hope this is making sense. Perhaps a few examples of some heroes will help. The first is, because of Memorial Day, it's based on a story that the movie Lone Survivor was based on. This story is about 4 Navy SEALs who find themselves in Afghanistan in the middle of a battle with the Taliban. They are greatly outnumbered, all communications cut off. They're in serious trouble, grave trouble. These 4 men in this crisis, they don't turn on each other. They don't abandon one another, even when it would be easy to leave wounded behind, to leave comrades behind and save themselves. And besides the story being riveting and interesting to hear what these men went through, what is interesting is the story with the families after the fact. The interviews with the families and their stories of their loved ones, the Navy SEALs. Every family member, every family of those 4 men said one thing about their son, their brother, their loved one. And when these 4 Navy SEALs were younger, they always stuck up for and fought for anyone that was getting picked on or in trouble. They were always there to help. Throughout their lives, they stuck up for friends, family, and the underdog. They fought for what was right. Each family interviewed knew that these 4 would eventually serve their country, and they were not surprised when they went on to become Navy SEALs. It was instilled in them from a very young age, their strength of character. So literally, in the middle of the fight for their lives, that character strength, that trait, that belief that they needed to stick up for and fight for the one that was in trouble, kept them together, fighting for each other to survive. It's something that they carried with them, and it's something they believed was right. And when the crisis came, when their lives were in jeopardy, they did not abandon that belief. They did not compromise on what was right. They kept their courage and strength of courage and character. heroes. Now, I understand few of us are Navy SEALs. So I'll give you another example, a little closer to home and perhaps one you can identify with a little bit easier. This one's a little bit more personal to me because it talks about one of my heroes, who was my dad. Of course, my mom is another one of my heroes as well, but this story has to do with my dad. And my dad had many character traits, some good, some bad, but mostly good. And he taught me a lot of these good character traits, some of which still stay with me today. Like, love your wife and place her above anyone else. Love your family first, even before yourself. Work hard, give the best that you can give in whatever you do, and integrity, even at personal cost. Now, there's a story that shows some of these traits of my dad that he's stuck to. His strength of character. See, my dad was the coach of a girls' varsity basketball team at the high school that I went to. Now, of course, for many coaches, winning is everything. And my dad, well, he hated to lose pretty much just as much as the next guy. Now, he helped develop the program, that basketball program for girls, into something that was pretty strong. So strong that his teams would win against some of the bigger, stronger schools in the district. As a coach, he expected his team to give it all they had. He also expected them to be at a higher standard of behavior while on his team. Now, because of this, he had an even stricter rule than the school when it came to alcohol. If you played on his team, you were not even allowed to be caught at a party with alcohol, even if you weren't drinking. No parties with alcohol. Now, if you were caught drinking, you were off the team. If you were caught at a party, even with proof that you were not drinking, you were suspended from wearing the team uniform and sat the bench for 3 games. So, of course, as life goes on, guess what happens? 1 year before a big game against a big rival. I mean, this is a particularly important game to win. 3 girls are caught at a party with alcohol. 2 of them were starters. The other definitely needed for the team because he did not have a deep bench. And I'm sorry, let me explain that in case you don't know sports. That just means his team was small. So he needed every player to play to give people that rotation, that time to rest. So he could have let the rule slide for this game so he could win. But he didn't. And 3 girls sat and watched as their team struggled without them. And they lost a remarkably close game. They almost won. Afterwards, the 2 starters were crying and apologized to my dad, saying they lost the game because they weren't there to help when the team needed them. And my dad told them, and I know because I was in his office, his coach's office, when this was going on. My dad told them, "You're right. You let me down. You let your team down. And you let yourselves down." He also told them that he wasn't there to just teach them about the game of basketball, but to teach them about life. So instead of focusing on losing the game, they should focus on never forgetting the lesson about making decisions that will let people who count on you down. Of course, after they left his office, I think he wanted to kick the garbage can, and the ride home after losing, like that, it was pretty tense. But it was still, for me, him being a hero, him holding on to that strength of character and even trying to pass it on, obviously to me, to keep me in there to hear that message, but also to those girls. Because I took it to heart as well. So these are worldly examples. But what about the spiritual example? What are we to do to be heroes for Christ? Well, decide what you believe in. Decide that you will live for Christ no matter what. I know, easier said than done. There can be too many worldly distractions and issues that come up that can interfere with that. Peer pressure to drink, or just have a few drinks that lead on to a few more drinks that lead on to a few more drinks. Because everyone's having a good time. Or, it was just a slightly, off-color kind of dirty joke. It doesn't hurt anyone. Or I lose my temper, and I only swear like that when I'm really mad. Or, come on, there are free tickets to the game. You can go to church anytime. Think of the tailgate party. Or your comfort, your needs matter more than those of others. Or you can't read the Bible here during work. You might offend someone. You need to put that away. Or, I may have to report you to HR. See, you need to decide what is right as a Christian according to the Bible and be a hero. Or you can cave into the pressures of society. I understand, believe me. I tell someone that I'm a Christian. I tell them that I've started churches, that I am a pastor and I have a ministry. And then, of course, 10 minutes later, I'll slam my thumb real hard with a hammer or in a door. And yeah, I feel those words on the tip of my tongue. But will I do what is right, or will I swear in front of those people and have them point out and look at me and say, hey, I thought you said you were a Christian and a pastor? See, being a hero for Christ goes beyond ourselves. Being a hero is about other people, saving or helping other people spiritually. Sacrifices in order that others may learn, may see, may live. And not just a chance to live, as in the example from the Navy SEALs, or to learn, as in the example from my dad, but a chance to truly live spiritually by learning and seeing the truth, seeing the faith in God firsthand. And we will see that in our final example today from the book of Daniel. Now, the book of Daniel gives the account of Daniel. It's kind of his biography, autobiography in some cases. Daniel's living in Babylon. He's one of the Jewish exiles. See, God had punished Israel for disobeying him, and he allowed Babylon to conquer Israel. And because of that, they took a lot of the Jewish people back to Babylon and into their empire. It's what they did to assimilate people into the empire. Now, Daniel has been in Babylon for a long time. He's been serving as an advisor to the kings of Babylon for some time now, and a new king is in power named Darius. And Daniel serves him now just like the kings previous to Darius. And we pick up Daniel's story in chapter 6. Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces. And he appointed a high official to rule over each province. The king also chose Daniel and 2 others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. Then the other administrators and high officials began searching for some fault in in the way that Daniel was handling government affairs. But they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. So they concluded, our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be connected with the rules of his religion. Let's pause there and notice Daniel's character as you listen to that, and as I read it, he was capable. He had great ability. He was faithful, responsible, trustworthy. These are the character traits of Daniel that he chooses to live by. He knew what was right in the eyes of God, and he lived that way. He lived that way so well that even his enemies couldn't find anything against him. The only thing that they could find to use against him was to persecute him by way of his faith, because they knew it was so strong they could use it against him. Just a little side note. If we choose to live for God, people will sometimes look to attack our faith because they cannot attack our character, just like Daniel. Moving on with the story of Daniel. So the administrators go to King Darius and tell him how great Darius is, and they put praises on the king and that he should, make a law because he's so great that for 30 days the people of his empire should only pray to him and worship him, and anyone who doesn't pray to him, well, they should be thrown in the den of lions. So Darius, with his ego being puffed up, and I like this idea. So he signs the law. Now, that was the trap, because Darius's pride helps set this trap for Daniel. Because in Babylon, once the law was set, even the king could not break or overturn the law, even if he said it. So back to Daniel chapter 6. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room with its windows open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he always had done, giving thanks to his God. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about the law. Now you see, Daniel decided long ago to serve God, to obey God, and to worship no one else but the one true living God, no matter what the cost. In doing so, in the middle of this crisis, where Daniel could have easily said, it's only 30 days. God will understand in order to save my life. Or he could have said, so I don't pray to God. No one will notice. It's my private room. Who will notice? Obviously, one, God, but also people were watching. In the middle of this crisis, Daniel is a hero. He is true to his beliefs, his faith, and true to God. It is his character, and he knows what is right. So he's caught by the administrators breaking the law, and they snitch on Daniel to the king. And like I said, when Daniel said, who would notice? Well, it's pretty amazing that the administrators knew Daniel would be a hero, true to his character, a hero for God. I mean, why would they have set the trap, and why would they have gone to his personal residence to watch him pray unless they knew he would be faithful, spiritually faithful to God? Now the king, even though he looks for a lot of ways to try and save Daniel, he's stuck. So he gives the order for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. And the king even says to Daniel, because the king knows Daniel's faith. King Darius says, may your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you. They seal the mouth of the den so nobody can help Daniel or he can get out. It even says the king stays up all night worrying about Daniel. And King Darius, the next morning, he runs to the lion's den. And we hear it recorded here in Daniel. Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried into the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve faithfully able to rescue you from the lions?" And Daniel answered, "Long live the king. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted out of the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Always trusted. True to his character. And here's the great thing. Due to Daniel's faithfulness to God, just like the previous king Nebuchadnezzar, if you read about Nebuchadnezzar, King Darius does the same thing. He sees this faith. He sees the strength of character. He sees this hero for God, and he testifies about God. Because it's recorded in Daniel, then King Darius sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. "Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." Daniel decided on what he believed, what was right, what he would obey, that he would stay faithful to God long before this ever happened. And because of that, he did not waver in this time of crisis. Because of this, Daniel is a hero for God. You see, a hero doesn't waver on their character because their character is based on what they've always believed, on what they've always known is right, and how they've always lived. With Daniel, his gifts and talents dictated his potential, but it was his courage and strength of character that determined his legacy. A legacy for God and his own book in the Bible. It's the same with us. Well, I mean, not that we're going to get a book in the Bible, but we have potential due to our talents. However, what our legacy will look like for God, for Christ, depends on our strength of character, not just our talents. It is our accomplishments that make our name known. It is our strength of character that determines what people associate with our name. I ask you to think now, what is your character? What do you truly believe? It was not determined before. Determine it now. Determine what is right and what is wrong. But especially as a Christian, determine what is right and what is wrong according to the Bible, according to God, according to the teachings of Christ. What do you hold to be true, and where does your faith lie? With the world or with Christ? Determine it now. And whatever you determine, will you hold on to it? Will you hold on to what you believe, no matter what the crisis or the cost? For a crisis has come, and another one will come again to test your character. Then with the pressure on, it will most likely be too late to try and figure out what is right and what is wrong. This crisis has and will determine if you will stick to your beliefs in what is right and what is wrong. The crisis will determine your true strength of character. It will it will determine your legacy. It will determine if you are a hero for Christ. If we as Christians all became heroes for Christ like Daniel, think of the legacy we could leave. Think of all the King Dariuses, the non-believers we might influence and change. Think how much better the world would be, even in the middle of this crisis. We can be heroes for Christ. At the very least, I'm going to try, because that is what Jesus taught and tells me to do. And I determined long ago to be a follower of Christ no matter what. Will you join me? I pray you will determine with conviction what you believe. And I pray it will be to follow Christ. I pray as we continue through this crisis, and when the next one comes, you will be able to have the strength of character to hold on to what you believe and know to be true through the teachings of Jesus Christ. I pray as you do, that it will determine your legacy as a hero for Christ, a legacy to change the world, even if it is one person at a time. I hope you enjoyed this message and found it spiritually uplifting. If you did, please like and follow R120 Ministries on Facebook and subscribe to the R120 Ministries YouTube channel. Also, we have a few weeks left of our live Bible study via Zoom. If you'd like to join us, just click the visit group button on our Facebook page for more details. And of course, I hope you'll join us next week for another spiritual message, probably about prayer, unless God has other plans. And as always, God bless, be well, be safe, and remember, not only does God love you, but I love you because of Christ in me, and there's nothing you can do about it. Have a great and awesome week.